where visionaries, entrepreneurs, and artists dream, transform, and create. Rae TV. You are listening to Miracle Moment, and I am your host, Rae Irelan. This is where trailblazing, truth-telling, provocative, and successful entrepreneurs and creatives from around the globe share their number one miracle moment that changed everything, pointing them in the direction of igniting epic soul alignment in their life and business. These renegade souls will show you the behind-the-scenes, real-life magic on how to create a world-class lifestyle of true success. I am so glad you're tuning in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Miracle Moment. Today, we have Amy McNally here, who is the founder of Leadership Coaching and Women Creating Wealth, which is an online community for businesswomen. She works with high-level female entrepreneurs to help them increase their income while reducing stress, overwhelm, and anxiety. So as an incredible therapist, as a coach, I'm so excited to have Amy on here. We are connected through a community online and through a program that we've both been in, and it's just such an honor to have such a powerful woman here sharing space. And already as we jumped onto this call, there were some beautiful, fun, playful synchronicities coming up. So I know that we're going to be activating some really fun energy today. So thank you so much for being on here, Amy.
Thank you for having me, Rae. I'm excited and I can't wait to see what comes through and out from this today.
Yes, absolutely. So one thing that you had shared with me was that making a transition into becoming a coach, stepping into the coaching industry was something that you really look back on and say wow, I'm so glad I did that. I'm so glad I have a profession that I really love doing. I would love for you, because of where you're at now, how you're supporting and helping these very high level women. What was your journey like to getting to that point? Can you share a little bit of your story with us?
Yeah, I would love to. So, as you mentioned, I am a former marriage and family therapist. And so it's interesting looking back, because when when you're in high school and it's oh, what are you going to do with your life? What are you going to be? At that point in my life, I didn't understand entrepreneurship. I didn't understand that, women could own businesses. That was never modeled for me or shown to me. It was very much you go to school and you get your education, and that is what creates a successful life. And so that's the path that I took. I went to college, I got my master's degree, I became a therapist. It was very much checklist, just checking one thing off after the other. And so that was what I chose. I knew very early on that I wanted to help other people. And specifically, I was really drawn to helping other women and families because, I saw a lot of trauma, I experienced a lot of trauma growing up. And so for me, it was I had this innate desire to really help other people through their stuff. And so I became a therapist and I got a really coveted job that apparently should have been really hard to get, but it was just ease and flow, and it just all unfolded so beautifully. And it wasn't long after landing that job that I was wait a minute, I actually don't like this. I'm not enjoying this. Something is off. And so I tried to, kind of stuff that down because I was in massive denial. And I was I had no plan B. Again, I didn't even know that there were other options. So for me, it was I put everything into this career and to this lifestyle. And I kept telling myself no, it's just because you're new, you're going to find your footing, things are going to work out. And I'll be really honest, it actually got worse. It didn't get better. And so
I think if I can interject, I think that's so interesting because, we're on this podcast, we're talking about miracle moments. And sometimes it almost makes me think of these these miracle moments that maybe even seem like a false miracle moment. Like you're like, oh, like I finally am, I'm like checking off the list. I'm doing the things. I'm going to school. I'm getting my master's. I got the job. And it's like, check, check, check. And you're like, okay, shouldn't this job be the miracle moment? You're like, wait. And like I know for myself, I've experienced this where you finally receive what you've been wanting, but then all of a sudden you realize and you start questioning, like, is this actually the thing that I want? And I think it's just such a powerful time to really let go of any shame or guilt and remember how adaptable and how ever changing we are, and to continue like asking that, even you can have the most beautiful home, the most beautiful relationship, and it's being in that inquiry of, is this still aligned with me? I think is such a powerful way to be living life in a consistent evolution, consistent growth mindset. So I just am curious, like in that part of your story, like what helped you move on through that?
So it's interesting. The word you said shame, and honestly, I experienced that, and I also experienced like kind of an identity crisis because it was very much like
Mm,
I couldn't ignore it anymore. It was getting progressively worse. My mental health started suffering. I experienced burnout. Like it was just, I was changing as a person and not for the better.
yeah.
And I knew I had to figure something else out. But honestly, I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't even know what else was out there. I really, in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to go back to school and I'm gonna have to like figure out another career, but nothing else like ever really spoke to me. And so I had a lot of shame. And I'm like, whatever, I don't even remember however old I was at that time, like mid 20s. I know I was very young. I had shame because I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. Like I don't know where I go from here. I don't know what's next. And so by the grace of God, it was an energetic thing. Like I discovered coaching, and I just remember like being so in awe of the profession and of the women that I was seeing in that line of work. And they were showing up online to give value and help other people, and they were making money from it. And it took me a minute, but I'm like, wait a minute, like this is exactly what I want to do. Like, I want to help other people. If I could do it from my home, that would be amazing. Like, it was like relearning a whole new ideology because it was so different than what I had been doing. But I am so thankful that I discovered it. And it was just like the trail of breadcrumbs. It was like I discovered it, and then I quickly hired a coach, and then I'm like deep into this, this facet of online coaching and really just immersing myself in it. And that's what helped me really start to transition out of being a therapist. And I ultimately ended up leaving that career. In 2017, I walked away from it because I knew in my heart coaching was what was fueling me. And that was what I wanted to pursue and actually make my life's work.
Wow, I love that. There's such a dedication to following your heart. I love that as an example, and such an inspiration you are. When it comes to the money mindset, because I know this is one of the main things that you work with your clients on, what was the breakthrough that had to happen for you? And is that connected to the miracle moment you want to share about?
Yeah, so I would say that for me, again, being very programmed, and like you get a 9 to 5, and like you have your hourly rate, and you get paid every 2 weeks. It was very like programmed one way to see money and experience money and deal with money. And coming into the online coaching world, women were charging a lot more than I was making. We'll just say that, as a therapist with her master's. And so it was like I kind of like I got into the profession. I loved it. I knew that coaching was my calling, but then I kind of started spiraling because I'm like, this money thing is a whole new world, right? And like I really, really had to, it was more than just one thing. It was like shifting my entire energetic body around money. So that included like, as silly as it sounds, like getting intimate with my money, like understanding, like, okay, this is what's coming in versus this is what's going out. Because prior to that, it was very like avoidant. I knew my paycheck would come, and that was about all. Like, I didn't have any sense of intimacy with my money. It was just very much like black and white. And so, really getting to know like, okay, this is the money that's coming in, this is the money that's going out. But more importantly than that, I had to start switching from a scarcity mindset to, abundance, because as we all know, what we focus on is going to expand. And so I was so focused on, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough money. And so I kept obviously creating those patterns and situations in my life. And so it was a multitude of things, but it was, becoming intimate with my money. It was starting to change the way I thought and felt about money. It was, getting into the money vibes of, like really allowing myself to dream bigger. Like, wait a minute, I can make this amount of money, or I can have these big goals. And so, yeah, it was a lot of things. And then I started to include tapping, which I'm not sure if you've heard of, but I started
Yeah,
including,
totally. Wait, can
yeah,
you share what tapping is for our audience?
absolutely. So there's a couple different names for it. The proper term is emotional freedom technique. Um, and so people call it EFT for short, or tapping is what it's commonly referred to. And it's so interesting because this is a technique that I had used in my therapy practice. It's scientifically backed. It's been shown to help with things like trauma and PTSD and anxiety, which obviously is, it makes sense why I was using it with my therapy clients. But up until then, I had never really used it for money and for wealth and for really changing the way that I thought and felt about money. So it was like this aha moment of taking this technique that I had been using for years professionally and a little bit personally, but never really directly correlated to my money. And so when I started doing that, the entire game changed because I was able to create safety in my body. So for those who don't know what tapping is, it's similar to acupuncture. More people are familiar with that. However, with tapping, you don't need to use needles. You're using your fingertips to lightly stimulate and activate certain meridian points on your body. And so, what that allows you to do, a couple things, but it allows you to, this is going to get real sciencey. So, I'll tell me if it's too much, but
I love
it
it. Bring it on.
it deactivates your stress response system. And so, how this relates to money is because every time I was thinking about money, I was getting stressed, right? That feeling of like, it's a visceral feeling in your body of like, oh, well, at least it was for me at
Hmm.
that time. But what that was signaling to my body was that money wasn't safe. I wasn't safe. Like, and so who am I to be, desiring more or charging a certain amount when every time I even physically thought about it, it was creating a stress response in my body. And so tapping actually really helps to deactivate. So if you are really stressing out about, and again, it's not just money, but that's what was really huge for me when I started using it with that. Um, it began to normalize money. So then I could talk about money and I wasn't feeling a stress. I could think about money. I could do things with money that involved money, and it wasn't triggering that stress response system. And so that was so huge. And it really just creates safety within your body around the thing that is, causing you some stress or some anxiety.
I love that. And it really just highlights the importance of feeling safe. And we can feel safe with our environments, with our relationships, within our physical body. And whatever experience you're having with those environment states, it really does translate out into everything we do, even into places like our money, where maybe you wouldn't even think that there was such a deep correlation. But it through the experience of safety comes such an expansive level of freedom.
Yeah, that is such a beautiful way to explain it. Yes, an expansive way with freedom, because that's what I experienced. And so I was somebody who went from, honestly, even as a therapist, like I was very much living paycheck to paycheck. And that shouldn't have been the case, but it was just like all this old programming and conditioning around money and how I had been brought up. And again, then like stepping into the coaching world, which was so different. I mean, people really talked about money in a way that
Yeah.
I had never experienced. And so for me to be a part of that, it's almost like I had to create that as my new norm. And I was really struggling to get there. Um, just by using a lot of the traditional things like positive thinking and affirmations. And those things are fantastic, but that wasn't helping the mind body connection that I was experiencing of like, this actually isn't safe. And our body's main job is to keep us safe, right? To keep us alive. And so for me, money wasn't safe. So I wasn't going to be able to create the life that I truly desired until I really healed and worked on that at a very core level.
Wow, that's so powerful. So, would you say that I'm curious if that is your like when you look back on your journey, if that is the miracle moment that you want to share, or is there a specific time or situation that happened that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, so I think the first miracle moment was discovering coaching. Absolutely. Like that changed my life and the trajectory of my business, my career, myself. Like it changed everything. So I would say that that was like the first miracle moment, and I will always be so grateful to finding coaching. And then secondary was really healing my relationship with money. And I started, I think when I actually got my first paid coaching client, that in itself was a miracle moment because it proved to me and to myself that everything I had been working for was coming to fruition. And so, the fact that women were willing and happy to pay me more than I was making as a therapist to just deeply serve and help them, that was such a miracle moment because up until then, I was very much like, oh, people just have their jobs, but they don't really like them, And so for me to be getting paid for work that just deeply lit me up and it was as much for me as it was for them, like to me, that's such a miracle moment. Like, what more can you ask for?
It's the total win-win-win of I win because I'm sharing something that I love. You win because you're receiving something that you need. And everyone else wins because they are receiving the ripple effect of us being in our alignment.
Absolutely. And I'm so like thankful still to this day. I mean, I've been a coach for several years now, but it's like that sheer gratitude never leaves me. And it's like every day I'm reminded like I get to do work I love. I'm helping other women. Like I'm so in my bliss when I think about it. And I'm just truly, truly thankful. So those two things, becoming a coach and then figuring out the energetics of money and feeling worthy enough to charge and also confident enough to step forward and say like, hey, here I am and here's what I do and here's how I can help you. Like that was not something that,
Mm.
is taught to us to show up and shine in that way as women.
Oh, it's so true. So true. Well, I love those miracle moments, and I think it's such a beautiful reminder, as I'm hearing you speak about this, I'm literally feeling your smile. Like I'm hearing you
Yes,
smile
yes.
through the story. And for everyone that's listening, you know, it may be coaching or it may be something else that really lights you up. But having that courage to really follow your heart and follow what excites you, what is inspiring to you, even if you've been checking off the to-do list towards a certain direction in life and, you know, doing the thing you think you're supposed to be doing. I think like your story, Amy, is just so valuable because it shows you can follow your heart and you can have the abundance and magic that you're craving, and possibly even more. Like I remember reading one of your answers before we got onto this call. It was like going from like paying overdraft fees to buying $1 million home in Hawaii with your husband. I mean, you know, what a dream. And that really, it does take that courage. It takes those steps, and it takes also seeking out tools and support. Like you said, you were like, I was just infatuated with the coaching industry, so I hired a coach. So many people come to me, and I'm sure you've experienced the same, Amy, where it's like, where do I start? And it's like, well, you know, get the support you need first. Take care of you first. It's so easy to sometimes just get into service and being there for others. And yet, like, how are you serving yourself first and foremost? So thank you so much for sharing your story with us here. It's so beautiful to hear. And I think there's so many different resources. I know I actually have a tapping video on YouTube, so you can go check that out under Rae Irelan YouTube. Amy, is there any other way that people can connect and find you online?
Yeah, so I have a free Facebook group and it's called Women Creating Wealth. So now that I've been able to experience and create that for myself, I'm really on a mission to help other women do that as well. Um, Through their means, right? And it does not look like mine most often, and that's okay, right? And in fact, it
Mhm.
should be different. So Women Creating Wealth, you can absolutely find me there. I'm always in there. I have an entire tapping archive in there on different topics. So everything from self-worth to, you know, money mindset to shifting out of victim to just being high vibe. I mean, I've got a ton of tools and resources in there
Amazing.
just to start shifting your energy and to feel good. And I think it's just important wherever you are, whether you're in a 9 to 5 or whether you have a business, to really check in and see, like, am I happy? Like, is this
Hmm.
actually fulfilling me? Because if it's not, I promise you there's something out there that would be better suited for you.
Yes. Hmm. And cheers to the self-discovery and without the need to know exactly what it may be, but just following the bliss, following the curiosity, following the inspiration. Well, thank you so much, Amy, for joining. Is there any last thing that you want to share for the audience? Any insight or just last words of inspiration before we close off here?
I I want to tell you that it's never too late. And so I hear that so often, you know, from women who are
Mhm.
like, but I'm already doing this, or I already went to school for that. And it's like, so did I. Like, so did I.
Yeah.
But it's never too late. And it's things can always get better. And that's something that's so fun to anchor into because so many women are settling, right? And again, this isn't just business. This could be settling in a relationship, right? Like settling
Hmm.
in other areas of your life. Like again, it just comes back to, am I happy? Am I fulfilled? Or am I just comfortable? Because I promise you, like, I could have lived out my life as a therapist and, you know, whatever, but I would have never got to experience the life I am now, right? And so it's like there's such bigger opportunities and miracles on the other side of following your bliss and saying yes to what really makes you happy.
Yes, I love that. Oh, so good. Well, we'll end on that note. Thank you so much, Amy, for being on here. Thank you for everyone that was listening, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for checking out this video. Subscribe and ring the bell if you haven't yet so you can stay up to date for new episodes coming out soon. And remember to witness and acknowledge the miracles and magic in every moment. This is Rae Irelan, and I'll see you soon.